going to be a grand slam home run.
Swing and drive. Belton right. Welcome to the show.
And here is the man that is setting, I would say, Major League Baseball on fire right now with his little power streak, Davis Schneider of the Toronto Blue Jays. Davis, we've been talking about you on the show. I mean, how couldn't we? I think everybody's been talking about what you've been doing, but I don't think people realize how awesome your story is and how long of a journey it's been. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk about it.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I mean, I remember Griff was telling me about you a couple years ago, so it's cool to we kind of circled back and kind of have this moment right now. So thanks for having me, though.
Of course, man. And it's been, it's one of those things where I love following, friends of friends, or, always keeping tabs. And, I know you and Griffin Conan go way back to the Blue Jays days. And it's been cool to just see, you put up numbers, you put up solid numbers, you do the progression through the minor leagues. But at a certain point, you kind of have to separate yourself and prove that you are a big league piece, right? And somebody that can actually make a difference at the highest level. But not only do you do that for a big league team now, you do that for a team that's in the hunt, and you do that for a team that's been, not sparing any expense at loading up the big league roster. We'll work backwards a little bit, but what has it been like to be able to go up? It's one thing to do it at the big league level. You hit your first home run at Fenway, which is also absurd. We'll get into that. But what is it like to get to the big leagues for a team like the Toronto Blue Jays and be able to make an impact the way that you have?
I mean, it's been pretty nuts for sure. But this is my first time. Obviously, I just got called up, so I don't really have any other experience when it comes to all right, being on a losing team and then getting called up. So this is my own reality. So this is the only kind of time where I realized, all right, this is what it is. So I don't really have any other way to speak of, but it's been pretty cool, especially just because we're in the hunt. We're 2.5 back with the Rangers and the Astros. So every game matters. And, once you step foot on the field, it's you kind of forget about all the outside noise at that point. You're just out there with the team, kind of just trying to compete. And so in that aspect, I mean, it's been pretty cool though, for sure.
So you get your big league debut at Fenway. And I mean, that's gotta talk about nerves. It's one thing to just get the big league opportunity, and you were probably just nervous enough as is. Did it add any layer of holy crap when you're also playing in a historic ballpark? Because I see a lot of big leaguers who've been doing it for a couple years who didn't have the scheduling of Fenway, and then, finally get there and they're still almost have this awe from being at Fenway. That was your first game. You have almost the double trouble with that. How were the nerves in that first game?
Well, yeah, when people ask me about that, I feel like everything leading up to that was way more nerve-wracking than the actual game. I mean, obviously playing at Fenway and in front of all those fans, and the historical aspect was nuts. But the media, all the interviews, I wasn't accustomed to that. So kind of having that whole day beforehand was kind of nerve-wracking and anxious. But like I said earlier, once you set foot on the field, obviously my first at bat, I was like, all right, this is awesome. Seeing the Green Monster and facing Rafael Devers, James Paxton, Justin Turner. That was definitely kind of mind blowing. But once you set foot on the field, it's kind of like any other baseball game, in my opinion. Obviously, there's more fans, and you're in the big leagues, but it's you get used to it because you've just been playing baseball your whole life, so kind of have to shun all that other outside stuff. And so, but it was definitely nerve-wracking. It was definitely had butterflies and everything like that. And the whole game was kind of a blur to me, just because I was just on edge, and my whole body was just it was like an outside experience. And so, I mean, after I hit my homer, I don't even remember even swinging the bat, to be honest. To be honest, I thought it was a fastball when I hit it, just because everything was happening so fast. And then running around the bases, I just couldn't help smiling, because seeing everyone in the dugout just being up on their feet, kind of fist pumping, was a cool part about it.
I mean, I'm trying to imagine that, in terms of you get that opportunity to put one over the monster too. What was that? At what point did you kind of have this moment of this is real. This is happening. Did that maybe not hit you till you got to the hotel later? Was it when you were floating around the bases, or like, I mean, watching that ball sail over the monster feels like something that, you know, you like wake up from and you hear the alarm on your iPhone and get your day started.
Yeah, I would say kind of after the whole Fenway series, after we played Boston, where it kind of set or sunk in for me, just because like the first 3 days, I mean, I was in the lineup all 3 days, so like everything was kind of happening so fast. And I got back to my hotel, and my buddies were there. I had my whole family there, so I didn't really have time to kind of like by myself to really kind of sit back and let it sink in. But I mean, it's still kind of uh, a dream to me. I mean, even right now we're in Colorado, and I feel like it's still not even real. I feel like when I get back home in a month or two, it's going to be where it's really going to kind of sink in for me, just because you go to the park every day and you just kind of have to like zone out like what you did the previous day. So like once the season's over, I can really reflect on like kind
Yeah.
of what I did the whole year. So
Well, I want to talk about what you've done this whole year, because I don't know how much of like an advanced metrics nerd you are, but like in 14 games to accumulate a 1.5 F4 is absolutely absurd. Like insanity. I think you and Mookie Betts are the only players like that are on that kind of like F4 pace. And of course, hitting 6 home runs in 14 games will do that. We'll get into that in a second, but it's what's got you here that is most impressive to me, right? You've put up great numbers pretty much at every single stop as a 28th round pick out of high school, but it was what kind of kicked into another gear for you offensively this year that gave you this opportunity to get to the big league level, hitting 21 home runs in AAA, walking at an 18% clip. The exit velocities were up. And, I went on a Blue Jays podcast, Locked On Blue Jays, a couple months ago, and just to talk about the farm system. And they're like, is there anybody that you see any like trends with? And I had noticed that you had big jumps in data, but also you had a tangible adjustment to your swing, right? You go to this toe tap, and that's obviously helped you tap into some more power, unless there's other things at hand here. Like, I'll get into the specific numbers, but what has clicked for you on a different level this year? Was it the mechanical adjustment? Was it the approach? Was it a culmination of things?
yeah, I would definitely say it's a whole bunch of things kind of thrown into one. I mean, having the ABS in AAA there kind of helped me a lot, just kind of zone into a certain approach because it makes the zone a lot smaller. Pitcher's going to have to throw middle a little bit more, so you're going to have those balls where you can kind of drive over the fence and hit pretty hard. And my hitting coach down in AAA, he was my hitting coach in AA last year too, and he's a really good hitting coach, Matt Haig. He knows what the swing is all about. He knows when your swing is in trouble. He kind of knows how to fix it. And so we kind of tinkered with a little stuff earlier on in the season. And we went to a toe tap, and we went to kind of adjustment on my hands. And I feel like that's really helped me just kind of consistently hit the ball in the air pool side. And obviously I hit the ball to right sometimes too, but it was mostly just pull side hard in the air that kind of really helped me increase those home run numbers and those power numbers. And yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to ask you, what about that makes sense from like the driving the ball perspective, but how the 2.5 mph jump in your 90th percentile exit velocity, like that's a huge gain. Like, that's usually stuff that you see from like an 18-year-old prospect who like physically matures to 19 as he gets 19, 20, 21. But I mean, this is deep into your minor league career to make that kind of jump. Like what did you find?
I definitely got a lot stronger for sure. I feel like the strength portion definitely helps you hit the ball harder. My swing's gotten a lot quicker and a lot faster, and having that consistent swing where you can, hit the ball a little bit harder on a consistent rate definitely helps. I mean, because I used to change my swing a lot. Me and Conan used to talk about it all the time. Like even him, he changes his
Oh,
swing from time
dude.
to time, all the time.
Oh, from time to time is underselling it with him.
Yeah, like I like
He's found
early
it. He's
on.
found the thing to stick with now too, but it's a sport where you just always feel like you want to tinker.
Yeah, and me personally, like sometimes my hands feel bad in a certain spot. My feet feel like I got to be more narrow. Like it depends on the day and on the week. If you look at my swing throughout the whole year, you wouldn't find a 2 week span where it's a different stance. Just because I like to just feel comfortable that day, and whether that's switching my hands up and where my feet are, I feel like I have to do that in order to be ready for that certain day. But I definitely it doesn't this might not correlate, but I definitely started using Victus bats every day now this year, and having a good bat company definitely helps you hit the ball harder because Victus Wood, in my opinion, is the best. And having a good bat definitely makes a little bit of a difference when it comes to hitting the ball a little bit harder.
And
And
that
so
was not that was
definitely,
not an ad. That was it. Not, I would love for it to be an ad. I actually recently asked Griff if he had any contacts at Victus. I was like, they should sponsor the show. But I do know that they make some nice bats there, and I think they make the really like the cool ones that we saw at, like the Little League World Series and stuff
yeah,
too.
they do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the pencils and all that good stuff. Yeah, those
Yeah,
those
so
are cool.
they have really good wood, and that definitely helps you hit the ball a little bit harder. Because if you're using softer wood, it definitely makes a difference, even if it's like
Interesting.
1 or 2 miles per hour. So like
I mean,
everything helps.
and you mentioned getting your A swing off just more consistently, right? I think there's like just a confidence level that goes into that as well. And I mean, you're obviously a strong dude who you figure out how to leverage your body. Did you feel like that toe tap kind of helped you stay back a little bit better, or get into your lower half a little bit more? Because it's interesting. Most people will equate more of a leg kick with power, but that's not always the case if you're not, holding the back hip as long, or if you're leaking out a little bit from that leg kick. Did you feel like the toe tap almost helped you stay in your lower half more?
For sure. It's definitely kind of like a hybrid because I do a toe tap. Plus, it's like a little bit of a leg kick once I get
Mm-hmm.
outside the toe tap. So it's kind of like a hybrid. But like what the toe tap lets me do is kind of like you said, kind of get into my legs a little bit more. And I feel like I have a little bit more on that backside longer. And once you have that, then you can kind of explode off of that. And that's going to result in hard contact a little bit more often. And like I said earlier, having the ABS down there definitely kind of helps you zone in a little bit more to your approach. You kind of know what you're looking for, and you don't have to nibble at the corners because the pitcher's not going to get that strike
Yeah.
the ball kind of here and there. Like what's a ball is going to be a ball. You're not going to get that 3-0 that's right on the corner that they're going to call a strike. And so having that definitely helps a lot. And like I said, my approach is, hunt the heater. If they hang something, obviously, you're going to want to hit it, but don't try to just settle for a little poke single to right or something like that. I'm trying to do damage when it comes to the plate. And that's why I kind of have a little bit strikeout, a little bit higher of a strikeout rate. But that's why I walk a lot too, because I'm
Yeah.
definitely passive early when it comes to off speed. Because if I see an off speed that I know I can't really hit for damage, then I take it.
Yeah.
And so pitchers usually kind of throw more balls off than not when it comes to off speed early.
That's what I was going to ask you too. And it seems like you see the 16% chase rate. I mean, that's elite stuff that you're running right around there. And yeah, that's including AAA. And I feel like, especially you mentioned the ABS, for hitters like yourself, for guys who are patient, who like to zero in, sometimes it almost seems like AAA can be a bit easier to a degree than AA, because you have these somewhat erratic arms that are getting an inch or two more off the plate. And yeah, sometimes guys like you seem to go up to AAA and succeed even more. Do you think that was part of it as well, on top of the improvements that you made?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because when you're in AA, you have better stuff when it comes to pitchers. They throw harder. They might have nastier secondary stuff, but their control is a little bit not there. And once you get the AAA, pitchers are going to be around the zone more. So like you kind of have a better approach, and you kind of know what you're looking for a little bit more. You're not going to. Usually, there's guys who are wild, and sometimes they throw 3 straight strikes on the outside corner, and then like it's like, damn, that kind of, you know.
Yeah.
But once you get a AAA, you're gonna have guys who know how to pitch, but they're around the zone a little bit more, so you're gonna have to be a little bit more in tune to your
Yeah.
approach, and that definitely just helps me
Mm-hmm.
kind of stick to it and make sure I'm in the right spot that day.
Totally makes sense. And I want to, well, we're going to get to the mustache as well, because so you were going to come on, for transparency, you were going to come on the other day, and you guys ended up having a crazy game.
Mhm.
And I was watching the game to get an idea of when you would be available, because you were kind enough to try to make it happen right after the ball game. And I'm watching, and, I'd been tuning into some Blue Jays games, but I had not seen the mustache fan section yet. I think that's a new thing. So I'm excited to talk to you about that. I'll get to that in a second. But in that game, you smoked a home run. You just missed another one by about 5 feet. And that wall is also super high. What is like allowed you to kind of come back around and do what you're doing again? I know it's only been 14 games, but I almost feel like there's been a ride already that you've had where it was like, come out really hot. It had a couple games where, it was the big leagues, and it's like, okay, you mentioned the strikeouts, but then get right back to being that guy who's going nuclear again. Like, how did you weather that so quickly and shake off, a couple tough at bats or whatever it may be, to keep going nuclear the way that you are at the big league level?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just what baseball is. I mean, you can have a hot streak, and then bound to get cold at some point. And the Guardians pitching staff was really good. Gavin Williams, like you got to tip your cap to some pitchers. I mean, not every day you can hit a guy. And I mean, that week where I kind of struggled. I mean, obviously, they kind of pitched me up in the zone, which is kind of where my hole is. And they had really good pitching staff, like I said over there. So like you got to tip your cap at some point. And then once you're in practice and during BP, you got to work on something. And my biggest thing is working on the high fastball, making sure I can get to that spot whenever I'm pitched to. And I know that's not going to be like my number one zone where I can hit the ball over the fence, but it's good to know that, okay, if I can just see it and lay off it sometimes, or even just foul it off, then pitchers are going to bound to make a mistake down.
Yeah.
And obviously some of the home runs I hit, my last three were up in the zone, but like just working on that in practice and getting a better feel for it definitely helps a lot when it comes to when you're in the game, just because you're just used to it during practice. So just getting those reps in during BP and just high velo stuff, it definitely makes a big difference.
So what's the story behind the mustache here? Because it's an incredible stash. I can't lie, and it's something that's just, I think, become it's just added to the intrigue, I think, right? Like this guy who was not on, I don't think Blue Jays fans' radars in terms of, when they put together their starting nine that they expected this year. I don't think they were penciling in Davis Schneider, and then Davis Schneider comes up, helps ignite them when they needed it the most. And he also rocks this unbelievable stash. So there's like this mystique to you as well. Where did that come from? And, how have you kind of embraced the role of the guy that somewhat came out of nowhere and is, proven that not only that he belongs, but that he could be an integral part of this team that, has huge aspirations.
Yeah, so last year I was started out in high A, and I was batting like 120 for the first 2 months of the season, and I had a full-on beard. And my buddies were joking, just go to stash, just switch it up a little bit. And then I saved it, and I just started hitting really well. And then I got called up to Double A, and then I grew out back my beard again. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to shave it because I was doing terrible again. So maybe if I go back to stash, I'm going to start hitting well. Then I started hitting well once I got the stash again. And so then this year, I didn't start out too well. And I kind of either grew a beard again and then shaved the stash. And then I kind of tinkered with it throughout the whole year. And then for like the last month, I had a mustache. And then once it got called up, I was like, do I shave it? And everyone was like, no, you got to keep it. Like, don't change anything. Just keep it. Don't grow out a beard. Don't shave it. I was like, all right. And then it goes perfectly with my Nike Monarch shoes. So like, having the mustache and the Monarchs together is definitely a look. And I wanted to like take off the Monarchs, but they're like, no, you got to keep them. Like, it's the look. And so like now I have to keep it. Like I kind of want to shave it sometimes just because I'm too noticeable out in public in Toronto. Just because like, and I'm a low key guy, so like I kind of not hate, but I'd rather just kind of fly under the radar sometimes. And,
No doubt.
Signing autographs and stuff is cool, but I'm definitely a low key guy who just kind of sticks to himself.
No, and that's the funny thing, because it's one thing to rock the mustache when you're in the minor leagues. You can look as you can have a unique look, and it doesn't really matter because how many people are really noticing it? Maybe a few fans of the ballpark, whoever tunes into MILB TV, but the quality's so bad you can barely see the mustache anyways. Like, it's another thing to be like, I'm rocking this crazy stash on national television now. And that must have been like a kind of a wild moment as well, where you're just like, I'm gonna embrace this.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect it to kind of like get this blown out of proportion where everyone's kind of wearing mustaches and everyone's
it
saying
helps
all
when
this
you hit
stuff.
6 home runs in 14 games. I think if you're hitting $120, I don't think anybody's rocking mustaches.
That's true. That definitely helps. But it's just funny because my sister made some like shirts with like the MLB logo on it, and it has the glasses on the guy with a little mustache. And so like a lot of people have bought those shirts. Even like Ernie Clement was wearing it into the clubhouse the other day. And I'm like, dude, just take that off. Like, what are you doing? Why are you wearing that? But it's just funny how like everyone kind of like makes a joke about it and just kind of is in on it. So I mean, I'm grateful for it to happen. It's funny. I mean, at least no one's like making fun of it, but
No,
everyone's
no,
kind of making fun of it for it. But it's just a
no.
funny thing, and I don't care. Like I'll ride with it for however long I can. Maybe in the off season I'll probably shave it, but I gotta ride it. I
You
gotta ride with it
right.
for the rest of the season.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And
Yeah.
I think a big part of it too, man, is genuinely how easy you are to root for. If people can't tell by now, by your personality, you mentioned you're a low key guy, but also the story, right? A 28th round pick who, I was trying to think of the way to structure this question, but I just got to like fire. Like, what made you sign out of high school in the 28th round? And did, what was that? What was the decision there? Because obviously you made the right decision and it's worked out, but that must have been an interesting spot to be in. I know that there was people that really liked you out of the draft. I know Baseball America had you as a top 500 prospect going into it, and you got this opportunity and took the most of it and made the most of it. But what made you decide to start your professional career? You're being drafted that late.
To be honest, I didn't really think anything of it. Like when I got drafted, I said to myself, okay, I'm going. Like I didn't really had any other thought. Like I don't know why. Like people ask me that now, and it's like, why didn't you just go to college? You only signed for $50,000. I'm like, $50,000 is a lot to me. Like, you know what I mean? Because I was like,
Yeah.
damn, that's a lot of money, you know? And like I said, I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, oh, I got the opportunity to go play pro baseball. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. And then my parents they wanted me to do it. I mean, it was my decision, but like my parents weren't pressuring me to do anything. They were like, you can make the right decision wherever you do. If you want to go to college, go to college. If you want to go do this, go do this. And I was like, I want to go play baseball. And I always thought to myself, college is always going to be there. I mean, they have that program to where if I want to go back to college, they'll pay for it. So like having that as like plan B was definitely big because I feel like college is always there. Like
Mhm.
I don't need to go play baseball at college in order to get a degree. So if baseball didn't work out, I could have went back and spent 4 more years doing that. But I always thought to myself, this could be the only opportunity I get. I could go 3 years at Rutgers and suck and never get drafted again. So I was like, this might be the only opportunity I could have.
That's honestly really cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I'd say most people, it's one of the more difficult decisions that they have to make. And usually they really allow the team to make the decision for them by setting a high price tag and saying, need it. And if it's not met, like, okay, my decision's made for me, because usually it's just that hard when the ball is in your court.
Yeah.
Is there, would you have taken any number? Like, would you, if they said, here's $10,000, like, are you still playing professional baseball right away?
Probably, yeah. I mean,
Dude,
it
that's
was
so
funny
fucking
just because
awesome.
like my agent, my dad, or not even have an agent, but like my scout, the one who scouted me, said they only have $50,000 for him, and my dad was like, "Okay, that's fine. Like we don't really." And he asked me, was like, "Is $50,000 enough?" I was like, "Yeah, for sure." Like I thought I was gonna get less at that point. You know what I mean? For being that low of a pick, and so like I said, I didn't really think anything of it. I thought this was the coolest thing, and I just wanted to run with it and see where it took me because I always thought I was talented enough to make it, and I thought to myself, okay, if my foot's in the door, then I could really make something out of it.
That's
You
that's
know?
an awesome perspective, because I think, it really becomes, like I said, it just becomes such a money game, nowadays, and with the advisors, and, and I understand it. You're trying to set yourself up for, just safety, even if it
Yeah.
doesn't work out. And I get that side of it, but it is kind of refreshing to just hear someone say, yeah, I just wanted to get my foot in the door and grind my way through it. And you did that. At what point did you, of course you're playing the sport. You always believe that you can make it, but there's that, I guess, moment where it's like, I can really do this. Like it's really potentially going to happen. When did that come for you? Because again, you start in rookie ball as a high school draftee, and your first season in rookie ball was really solid. You do, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is just me looking at the stat lines, and you do another year in rookie ball and wasn't as good for you that year. And then you do a third year in rookie ball,
Rookie. Yeah.
and you put up really good numbers that year in 34 games, and you get the opportunity to go to short season where it was a rough 17 games there. So, at that point, that's all you have. And then you have COVID, which is so messed up. So now you're probably lamenting, right, even more on like how eager you must have been to go do something and, kind of make that leap and keep pushing forward. at that point, where were you at mentally? Because, you know, we'll get to the brighter parts of the story because you start going crazy post COVID, but that must have been really hard with no minor league season, not really being where you wanted to be just yet. Probably, I assume, like 3 years of rookie ball is, you know, an interesting spot to be in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, after COVID during the 21 season, everyone kind of was backed up because everyone missed the season. So like every team was kind of backed up at that point. And so I went to high A for the 21 season, and I was playing once a week. And when I did get in there, I was terrible for the first 3 months of the season. I was batting, I think, 100 for the first like. I mean, I didn't play a lot of games, but the first 3 months, I was still batting 100, and I only had like 140 at bats for a whole full season, and usually get that in a short season. And so, and then I started hit well at the end of the season. I got a little bit more playing time, but then during 22, I went back to high A, and they were like, "All right, you're going to start playing every day. Just go out there, get your reps in, and then because we do believe in you, we think you're a key aspect or a key prospect. So like, just go out there, spend another season in high A, or start out in high A and to see what you can do." And then, unfortunately, I didn't start out too well in high A that year either. I was batting like 120 for the first 2 months, and I always start out
Like,
bad.
where
Like,
where
like
you at where you at mentally at that point? Like you just
Oh.
finally getting some playing time, and then you're not doing as well, and you know, again, like it's got to be really tough when you're starting to get phased out of the lineup, and then you're wondering if you're going to get phased back out again. Like, how'd you stay the course? Like, where were you at? Where was your headspace?
Yeah, in 21, when I wasn't playing well, and like halfway through the year, I literally wanted to quit. Like I texted one of my buddies and I was like, "Dude, I think I'm done." And he just recently got released at spring training as well. And I texted him. I was like, "Dude, I think I'm done. Like I'm not playing well, and they're not playing me. I feel like I don't really have a future anymore." And he was just like, "Dude, if I was there, I mean, I wouldn't even care if I was playing. I just want to be around the guys around the clubhouse." And I was like, "No, damn, you're right. Like this is better than doing nothing at home." And so I luckily I stuck it out. Like that kind of really helped me just kind of power through and just really realize, okay, I this is like even a blessing, even if I'm doing bad. Like it doesn't really matter how you're doing as long as you're there. Then anything could really happen. And so that really kind of helped me just kind of stay locked in and make sure like, all right, I can still play this game. And that helped me with my confidence too, because I wasn't really confident at the time. I didn't think I was good enough, just because I was struggling just so bad, you
And
know.
then when did those tides turn for you?
At the end of 21 is when I started swinging a little bit well, but like I still, my OPS was over 800, but I only had 140 at bats. And so that wasn't really a big sample size to really go off of. And then once I got the high and started playing every day in 2022, then I started doing really well. And then I went to double A, and then I got put on the development list, which is where, you don't play, and you're not really on the roster, but you're on the roster, but you don't just play for a whole week just because we had too many guys there. And that was in the beginning of August. And so once that happened, I was like, damn, like this year is kind of washed. Like, and I was only batting like 220, like I wasn't really doing bad. And then once I got put off of that, then I started like going off. Like I got my average up to like 290 in double A with like 140 at bats. And then I got promoted to triple A and did it all right there. And it wasn't really until this year, like maybe when I had like 14 homers, where I was like, damn, this really could be possible for me getting caught up this year. I mean, the Blue Jays were doing good. So like, and there wasn't really that much room on like the 40 man. So like, that was like the tough aspect of it just because, you got to be on the 40 man in order to get caught up. But it wasn't really until like halfway through the year where I was like, okay, this is possible.
And at that point, I think when you're performing in AAA, it's like, okay, even if it's not going to happen with my ball club, my organization,
Yeah.
I've solidified myself as either a Rule 5 guy or solidified myself as someone that's going to, continue to get consistent playing time at the AAA level and eventually get a look somewhere, which, I think is like that big sticking point is like, can you put up decent numbers in AAA? Then usually you're going to keep getting looks and keep getting opportunities. But I mean, that just walk through there of your path is absolutely unbelievable, because I don't think people realize, like, again, like we just see numbers and a Fangraphs page, and, I can see year by year and assume like that must've been a tough year for him. Oh, that must've been where it started to click for him, but you don't know the thoughts the emotions that go through and the ups and downs to get to some of those numbers at the end of each year. And I think the most important thing that you mentioned here is like you were that close to giving it up, right? Like,
Yeah.
and the butterfly effect of those things is pretty remarkable. When you look back now, and of course, I mean, you got a lot ahead of you, and I'm really excited to see what you continue to do. But I mean, you're a big leaguer, and no one can ever take that away from you. And not only that, you got 6 pumps in the big league, so like that's already insane. But what is it about you? What is it about Davis Schneider that allowed you to be able to get to where you are now versus where you were before? Because not a lot of guys get to, go from the development list in high A or double A and end up, not only in the big leagues, but performing in the big leagues.
Yeah, I think it's like obviously I thought I was always talented enough, but I think it's just like mentally, like during COVID, during 2020, my brother passed away. So like having that
Uh,
happen to me just kind of really kind of put like thought in my head, like, all right, like there's nothing in this world that really matters besides like family and like how happy you are. And so like having that happen kind of really just put in my head to where, if baseball doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like I could not that I could care less, but like it's not the
no,
most important thing in the world. You know what I mean?
no, I
And
100%.
so yeah, and then like and that makes you even play better just because like you're not worried about obviously I still get mad when I strike out or get
Yeah.
out or stuff like that just because it's human nature. But you realize at the end of the day it's not the most important thing that really matters. And so that definitely helps me on the field, just really kind of be grateful for what you have. And I just couldn't be more grateful for everything that's ever that happened so far, in my career in the
I,
major leagues and all the support I have from my family and friends. And that's the best part about it is just like everyone back home who's like reached out and kind of supported me through everything is kind of the coolest part because there's people I don't even know texting me. They're like, dude, congrats. Like, this is awesome. Like everything like that. And that's like the most heartwarming thing about it is just like you have so much people in your corner that you don't really realize.
that part of it too, and I was excited for you because of how excited Griff was for you and all the things like, Griff has told me so many great things about you. And I'm like, and I remember when he told me, like, I forget where we were, but he was like, shit, man, they put Davis on the development list. And like, I could just see how like bummed he was. So it's like the ups and downs, the people that are in your corner, they're riding with you. And that's a
Yeah.
really cool part of it. But, I really appreciate you sharing the aspect of your brother, because I don't think people realize too, like baseball can become very consuming when it's your career and all you do and you're trying to make it. And for me, I even just playing in high school, like it used to make or break my week depending on how I played.
Yeah.
Like and that was also a younger person, but like even now, like if I make a mistake or whatever with on the media side of things, like it used to really consume me. And I lost my father about 5-6 years ago, and it was a similar type of thing where it was just like you're able to compartmentalize the things that used to like feel way bigger than they were to you. It's like, okay, like
For sure.
my life moves on. I'm still breathing. I can still walk. I still have my loved ones. Like everything else is okay. I'll get through whatever this, rough patch is. But
Hmm.
I don't think we get that perspective usually, unless unfortunately you get shaken by
Yeah.
something that, really jars you to see something totally different. And, I really appreciate you sharing that. Is there anything that you do to carry his memory as you play, and was he much of a baseball fan himself?
Yeah, I mean he supported me through everything. I mean he was a couple years older than me. Um he was 5 years, yeah, 5 years older than me. So like he was like my number one guy. Like every one of his friends, like he was like, dude, like your brother always told me you were gonna make it, like everything like that. And so he was
That's
definitely
so
like my number
awesome,
one
man.
guy and number one supporter. But I feel like just going out there and just giving it 100% is what kind of makes his memory like even like worth it, just because like he I remember he would get on me all the time. Like if I had like a bad game, he's like the number one guy who would be like, dude, like what are you doing? Like you gotta be better. And I'm like, even in like pickup basketball games we would play together, he would just like yell at me or just like kind of want me to succeed. Not like yell at me, but like just always try to improve
Get
on
the
my
best out
game,
of you.
no matter
Yeah.
what that was. Yeah, even in like ping pong or just any competition that we had together, he always wanted to bring out the best in me. And I feel like that's the biggest thing about baseball is that like if you don't give 100%, then you're gonna regret it. So like I
Yeah.
go out there and just try to make sure I'm always prepared, always ready to play, and just go out there and just leave it all out on the field. And if you do that, then that's all you really can ask for. If you go for 4 Ks, if you put in the effort, then that's all that matters, in my opinion.
To wrap up is that's you hit the nail on the head there. And I think it's relatable to again, like perspective for anybody in any aspect of life. Again, like work is tough. Okay. It seems like it's going to consume you. You get fired, God forbid, like whatever it may be. Again, like you zoom out and there's just so many more things in life that, could put it in perspective and that, mean so much more. And I think it allows you to kind of play a little bit looser or work a little bit looser or exist a little bit looser. So I really do appreciate that. When you kind of look forward now, and then there's one other thing I want to ask you about, like what you like to do off the field. But when you look forward now, what are your goals? Like what is, I mean, it's got to be shifting, and I know a lot of guys aren't like specifically like writing on a whiteboard, like this is what I want to do. I want these exact numbers, but I'm sure playing hard. I know you're going to give me that answer, but what would make the rest of this year successful for you? I want you to be selfish in this answer because you can say make the playoffs for the Blue Jays. I know you're going to say that too. But give me like what would make this successful for you and what you're hoping to get out of the rest of this year and what you're going to kind of bring into next year from what you've learned already.
Well, number one thing, obviously, make the playoffs. I'm definitely going to say that.
Yeah, I knew
Like
you were going to say that,
that's
but
got to be it.
yeah,
But for me personally, I mean, I feel like if you worry about the stats and worry about the outcomes too much, then like they're not going to happen.
yeah,
And so like if you just go out there and make sure your work is in the right spot, like you're prepared. I feel like that's the number one thing for me is making sure when I do go to the field, how do I get ready for the game? How am I going to be prepared? What am I going to do in order to make sure I am successful out in the field? And if I can do that every single day, then I feel like the numbers are going to take care of itself. And you're not going to get a hit every game or hit a homer every game, but you just got to make. I just want to make sure that I'm in the right spot, and I kind of want to learn a lot of stuff from these guys that are here because there's a lot of vets on this team.
here's some
Jeremiah,
good players.
Springer, yeah, some good players that's been around the league. They won a World Series, Belt, Springer, all these guys. So if I can learn stuff from them, which I already have, but if I can learn a little bit more from them, then I feel like I can take this year and make sure the next year is even better.
Is there one thing you can highlight that was just kind of eye opening to learn from some of these guys? Because I mean, again, you look around, even the young guys are like already so proven, like a Bo Bichette, even like a Vlad Guerrero Jr. Like these guys have it pretty figured out, relatively speaking. Is there any conversation? I mean, Brandon Belt's got to be pretty. That guy's got to have just endless knowledge that like really opened your eyes to a different perspective that you just would have never known without 10 years of experience or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I mean, the most recent thing that happened, I mean, Bo, we were on the bench. I think it was either game two or game three. It wasn't yesterday. It was game two against the Nationals. I think after I hit my homer, and I asked him, it's like, dude, what do you think the difference between AAA and the big leagues is? And he just went like, it's all in your head. I mean, it's all mental. And obviously it's true, but he was just like, dude, it's all the same shit. Like, obviously there's going to be outliers when it comes to pitchers. Guys are going to be throwing 100 or, have nasty secondary stuff, but like those guys are the outliers. So you're not going to be facing them every day. You're going to be facing guys who are throwing 92, 94. So like if you can just realize that, then I feel like you're going to have success in this league. And once he said that, I was like, you know what? He's right. Just because when you think of the big leagues, you think of guys who are just nasty all the way
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
And obviously, like I said, there's guys who can do that, who can put the ball 500 feet or throw 100, but there's not that many of them. So like once you get around the fact that these guys are human and they make mistakes, then I feel like good things will happen when it
Yeah.
comes to that. You know,
I love that. That makes a ton of sense.
Mhm.
What does Davis Schneider like to do off the field? And what do you like to do when you're not playing ball, whether it's after a game and then also in the off season?
I mean, after the game, I just kind of like to chill and sleep. I don't really do too much when it comes to that. I mean, I'll go out and have a drink here and there for sure. If the buddies want to go out, I'll drink with them. But like, I'm not a big drinker, but I'll do it if my buddies want to do it. But in the off season, I do three things. I work out, play a lot of golf, and I hang out with my dog. So those are the three things I'm looking forward to the most when it comes to the off season.
I love
And
it.
so like, and I mean, I'm a simple guy. Like I don't really like to. I just like to hang out and chill. I'm a very like I said, low key, laid back guy. So like, um, I like to just hang out with my dog because like he's the only one who doesn't really annoy me. So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
golf
yeah,
golf
I
is a
don't really.
popular
I'm a
one.
simple guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just a simple guy. Play golf, hang out with my dog, and work out.
that sounds good to
Obviously, I
me.
hang out with my buddies here and there, but you know,
Dog a little
those are
bit
the only
more.
things I really like to do. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
dog a little bit
Yeah,
more. Is
yeah.
there like any like weird like do you like specific shows like hobbies like okay, for example, just visited Griff out in Lehigh Valley. They play a nauseating amount of Mario Kart, like a ridiculous amount of Mario Kart. Like him, Troy Johnston, basically the whole team now. They're just all on Mario Kart all the time. Like that's their guilty pleasure when they're not playing ball and not preparing for the game. Is there anything else? Or are you just those three boil it down? No guilty pleasure.
Yeah, basically, I don't really play video games. I used to when Fortnite was
Yeah,
popular. I used to play
you
that.
didn't.
Obviously,
Yeah,
everyone played that. So like,
yeah.
but now I don't really play video games. I just kind of I watch TV. I like Seinfeld. I like me and Griff are a big Seinfeld guy.
Yeah,
So
no, I
like,
know that.
he's me and him quote it all the time. We just text each other quotes. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean TV shows. I like Workaholics, New Girl, The Friends, The Office. Like standard shows.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, if I'm not doing anything, I'll definitely watch some TV here and there. And I do like a lot of I do watch movies too. So like definitely a big movie and TV buff.
Oh yeah.
So that's like I guess my guilty pleasure
Yeah,
when it comes to
movies,
that for sure.
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. All right. Well, you
Yeah.
gave the most simple answer I think I've ever received when I
I'm a
asked that.
boring guy. Like
No,
I
that's
literally
great.
there's really nothing to
If
me,
I'm a
you know.
GM, I want my players to be as boring as possible. Like that's I'm trying to build a team of boring dudes. But that you
Yeah.
say boring, but it's like you're giving one of the more interesting and personable conversations, interviews that we've had on the show. Seriously, and not just saying that to gas you up. Like it's there's a difference between being boring and being simple, I think. And
Yeah.
and again, simple is underselling it because you've offered way more perspectives than most people do on this show. So I think you don't need much to be entertained. Whereas like for
Yeah,
me,
exactly.
I
That's
got
a good way to put it.
I've got crazy ADHD. I need to be like stimulated at all times. Like I got the game on the TV. I'm doing, writing on the computer. Like I'm the other way. So I appreciate that. And I could probably learn a thing or two from you, but, dude, congratulations on all the success, man. If people weren't rooting for you before this, for whatever reason, weren't aware of what you're doing, I know that you just gained a lot of fans from those who listen to this podcast. And I mean, it's just been so much fun to watch you do your thing, man. And I'm really excited to watch you continue to do that. Thanks so much for taking the time. And I really am excited for what you've already been able to do and what you will do.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. It was a good time. Thanks.